Picture a king whose hands don't wield a scepter, but tighten a noose around his people's necks. In 1876, King Leopold II of Belgium was no savior, as he proclaimed. He was the predator hiding behind the humanitarian mask of the International African Association. A philanthropist? No, he was a mass murderer cloaked in the guise of civilization. Leopold was not merely a con man, he was a master manipulator using flowery words as lethal weapons to deceive Europe and the world. At international conferences, he painted a vision of benevolence, but was crafting the blueprint for a horrific slaughter. Letters and communiques sent to leaders were calculated lies, describing the Congolese as souls needing salvation from savagery. But the truth? Classified documents later revealed Leopold's dark ambition to turn the Congo into his private gold mine. He established an unimaginable system of exploitation where indigenous people were drained to the bone, while the world was mesmerized by the image of a benevolent king. Leopold wasn't just a despot, he embodied the horror he orchestrated. Internal reports filled with details of repression and ruthless exploitation unveiled a terrifying reality. He didn't see black people as human beings, but as profit-generating machines. When you admire Belgium's grand structures, remember, they were built with the blood of millions of Congolese. This isn't the legacy of a king, it's the legacy of a tyrant. In 1885, King Leopold II of Belgium orchestrated a brutal political theater on the world stage. Imagine a king, not merely as a plunderer, but as a con man extraordinaire, transforming the Congo into his private estate. At the Berlin Conference, where European powers carved Africa like a loaf of bread, Leopold spun a deceitful narrative about a Congo in need of guardianship. But in reality, he was signing treaties to seize its land. These treaties weren't mere agreements, they were deadly traps. The clearest example of Leopold's deception is the treaty with Chief Makoko in 1884. Tribal leaders were coerced or tricked into signing documents they couldn't read, unaware they were surrendering their homeland. These documents were hidden away in Belgium's secret archives, only revealed decades later. Leopold did not act alone. He had Henry Morton Stanley, a so-called explorer who was actually a tool of psychological warfare. Stanley didn't just map lands, he sowed fear. Accounts from the time describe meetings between Stanley and tribal chiefs as psychological battles where Stanley always emerged victorious, often through intimidation or military pressure. Leopold set up systems of surveillance and torture to keep the Congo under absolute control. His force, the Force Publique, was well-equipped and brutal. The Belgian government tried to cover it up, but couldn't deny letters from guilt-ridden soldiers writing home about the horrors they witnessed. The outside world remained blind to these secret treaties and thought Leopold was bringing civilization to the Congo. But in truth, he plunged them into the deepest darkness. The cost of these lies and manipulations was paid in millions of lives lost. Leopold II built his empire on blood and pain. It wasn't merely personal ambition, but a harsh lesson on the power of deceit in history. In the darkest annals of colonial history, the height of exploitation under Leopold II came with the rubber boom of the late 1890s. Imagine a kingdom without a throne, only ropes tightening around its people's necks. Leopold's private army, the Force Publique, were not soldiers, but predators. They were tasked with enforcing brutal rubber quotas with unimaginable violence. The Congolese were trapped in a system of torture, where their hands were severed if quotas weren't met. Photographs by missionary Alice Seeley Harris laid bare this atrocity to the world. One infamous image shows a man holding the severed hand and foot of his daughter, a visceral testament to the horrifying cruelty Leopold inflicted. The 1904 Casement Report was a shock to the world. Recorded statements depicted scenes of hell on earth. "They are not soldiers, they are murderers," one survivor stated. This dossier contained countless testimonies of how Leopold's men razed villages and slaughtered thousands to set brutal examples. But the most chilling is the estimated number: 10 million Congolese perished under his regime. A genocide in darkness, veiled under the guise of civilization. Leopold's exploitation didn't stop at rubber. Ivory became another prized commodity. Elephant hunting parties were organized to strip thousands of elephants from the jungles just to satisfy European markets. The ruthlessness knew no bounds as secret letters from disgruntled officers began to surface, detailing torture and executions as some sick game the force publique enjoyed. Leopold created a factory of genocide where humans were worth less than commodities. Every brick in Belgium's opulent structures was stained with Congolese blood and tears. It is not the story of a king, but of tyranny incarnate. Imagine a king who wasn't expanding his empire, but executing genocide under a crown. In 1904, as Leopold II's crimes in the Congo were dragged into the light, the world could no longer look away. Amidst the outrage from human rights activists like E.D. Morel and famed author Mark Twain, Leopold attempted to cloak his sins with a commission of inquiry. Yet instead of hiding the truth, this commission laid bare his savagery. In a dim room, committee members sat listening to testimonies from surviving Congolese victims. They spoke of horror, torture, and mass slaughter. One man recounted witnessing his son tortured by Belgian soldiers right before his eyes. "They laughed as he screamed," he said, his voice heavy with despair. Reports from the commission detailed the cruel methods of the force publique. "We found what were once villages now reduced to ashes." The truth was undeniable. Letters from Belgian soldiers sent home also recounted the horrors they had witnessed or inflicted. Leopold continued trying to conceal the truth by manipulating records and politics. But these efforts only made his brutality more obvious. The truth surfaced like an unstoppable nightmare. By 1908, financial strain and global outrage forced Leopold to cede the Congo to the Belgian government. This wasn't an act of goodwill, but a surrender to the insurmountable pressure he had orchestrated himself. Leopold II was no enlightened ruler, but a public enemy of humanity. He exploited millions for personal gain, and though he died in disgrace in 1909, his legacy lives on as a haunting reminder of how greed and power can utterly corrupt. Imagine a king whose death was not a relief, but the final unmasking of a brutal reign. When Leopold II of Belgium died in 1909, he did not leave behind the legacy of a hero, but the specter of horror. It's not Belgium's grand architecture that should be remembered, but the millions of lives crushed under his insatiable greed. History isn't just dusty pages, it's alive with the screams of oppressed Congolese and the clank of heavy chains. Leopold once boasted he would be remembered as a great king, but what he left was the legacy of a tyrant. With blood-stained hands, secret files from government offices narrate tales of corruption and unspeakable crimes. A Belgian officer once wrote to his mother in remorse, "We built this empire on blood and tears." Leaked photographs from Leopold's personal archives reveal haunting scenes, children shackled and slaves beaten to death. Even in death, Leopold stirs controversy in his homeland. Fiery debates about whether to dismantle monuments in his honor continue to rage on. Seekers of justice demand official apologies and reparations for the Congolese people. Leopold II wasn't just a ruler, he was the embodiment of corruption and brutality that power can bring. His legacy is a stark reminder that power can warp even the noblest souls. It is the tale of a ruthless tyrant masquerading under a gilded guise.